So you say you keep hearing about this Pirate Borg role-playing game, yet you're not a fan of that whole art punk role-playing game movement, even though people have told you, hey, you know what? Pirate Borg is so much more than just another one of these art punk RPG releases. You've also heard there's a Pirate Borg starter set, which is arriving in stores this week. Could now be the perfect time to jump on board and check out Pirate Borg? Is it? Well, you're going to find out because I'll be sharing my review of the Pirate Borg starter set right after this. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang channel. Thanks for joining me once again. Today, I am going to be sharing my review of the Pirate Borg starter set from Limithron and Free League Publishing. But before I start getting into the details, I do want to mention I have an extra copy of the starter set as well as the new Down Among the Dead supplement, which I have not shared a first look at yet. Stay tuned. You'll be seeing this week. I've got extra copies of each of these, and I am going to give those away to one lucky viewer. So stick around. I'll be telling you how you can get into the running to become that one lucky viewer. But let's get back to the review because, as I mentioned, today I am going to be sharing my thoughts about the Pirate Borg starter set from Limithron and Free League Publishing. This box set is landing in stores supposedly this week, as far as I understand, and it will carry an MSRP of $49.99. You can get the PDF over at pirateborg.com for $24.99. I would think very shortly you'll also be able to get that PDF over at DriveThruRPG. Having said all that, let's swing on over to the other camera because here I've got the starter set for Pirate Borg. A few things to mention before we get stuck in. First of all, my friends over at Limithron and Free League Publishing were kind enough to provide me with this review copy. But neither I nor anyone else affiliated with the Gaming Gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share this review with you. It's important you know that. We're also not going to look at each and every page, every card, every map, handout, so forth that's contained in this box, but I do want to give you a really good feel for what you're going to find inside. Then, of course, there is an adventure that's included. So if you are a player and your game master has already ordered the starter set, maybe they're talking about picking this up. Keep in mind, there's going to be some spoilers ahead. I'm going to try to stay away from major spoilers, but there are going to be some. So I just want to warn you right up front. Of course, if your game master is considering picking up the starter set for Pirate Borg, let them know about this review. That way they can approach this and make a far more informed buying decision. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at all the extra goodies first, and I will leave the booklets to last. So first off, this is packed with a lot of stuff. We've got erasable markers. We've got some different cards here. Some of them are for the boats and ships from the adventure. We've got some naval combat rules, major NPCs, monsters, of course, stat blocks and everything on the back. We have some of the bigger bads here as well. Full color artwork with a bit of backgrounds on those. And then we have the artifact that the player characters are going to find themselves questing after. Nice cardstock. Of course, with any cards, I always recommend just throw some penny sleeves on them. keep the cards in as pristine a condition as you possibly can. We get a full set of dice, which also includes 4 6-sided dice. I love when dice sets include the 4 6-siders, especially when we're looking at having attributes 3 to 18, where you can have your players rolling up 3 6-sided dice or maybe 4 6-sided dice rather than just having 1 included in the set. I think that's really going the extra mile. And I know some people out there think I'm just too fixated on 4 6-siders in a set. It's just me. Also want to mention, these are really deeply cut, nicely done. There's a 4-sider that's not just the pyramid shape. Thought that was nice. And these are resin dice. These are not plastic dice. Nice and chunky. You also get a couple of 20-siders because there is advantage and disadvantage in Pirate Borg. I'll be very honest, I'm not going to go through all the mechanics of Pirate Borg. I have reviewed the core rule book. We'll touch on some things, but we're not going to get into a lot of depth as far as the game mechanically. Also, if you want to get a much closer look at a lot of this stuff, I did a first look video last week. Might want to take a peek at that. So I wasn't sure what these were when I was first taking a peek. I thought maybe these were character sheets, but erasable. That's why we've got those markers. These are supposed to be worksheets for character creation. And I will mention character creation in Pirate Borg is very easy. It's very fast. Don't sit there thinking, wait a second, there's a worksheet. How much is involved in the character creation? Not that much. We also have a pad of character sheets as well. That's why I was like, we got a pad of character sheets and these are character sheets? No. We've got some tokens. We've got some ships. We've got NPCs dual-sided on these. So we have different images. These are also for our player characters. Got a couple of different choices there for each of the classes. Very nice. Nice and thick. Production quality on all of this is excellent. Just really, really nice. We've got a bunch of maps. We've got battle maps. We've got handouts as well. This is the treasure map that the players are going to find. And you're supposed to rip it in half because they find half of the treasure map. I thought that was kind of interesting. We've got battle maps. Of course, you're going to use those tokens with. All these are dual-sided. We've got a side view and deck plan for ships. We also have an ocean map for naval combat with hexes. Like I said, loads and loads of stuff here. And then we've got 2 booklets. So we've got the Player's Guidebook, which I also believe is available separately as a PDF. I think it's $9.99 over on DriveThruRPG. This is going to onboard game masters and players into Pirate Borg. Pirate Borg is an old school styled role-playing game. And it is, of course, obviously pirates. It takes place in the dark Caribbean. So we've got monsters and undead, and we've got magic, a lot of cool stuff going on. So if you're a big fan of, say, like the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, this is going to be right up your alley. Something else that's very cool, too, is the fact that you can tweak Pirate Borg to be the sort of pirate game you want to play, that you and your group want to engage in at your game tables. So if you're looking for more high seas adventures a la classic Hollywood, you can certainly go in that direction. If you want to go more cosmic horror and have more of a Lovecraftian vibe, you certainly can. And of course, you can play this with the dark Caribbean setting very easily. All right, first thing we'll do here is take a peek at the credits. We've got our credits here as well as over here. A lot of folks worked very hard to bring this to life. Now, the main mover and shaker of Pirate Borg is Luke Stratton. So it is written and illustrated and even laid out by him. So I mentioned art punk. Even though this looks like, oh, okay, so this is part of the art punk movement, it is that. I will give it that. But it is also a game, because one of my critiques about a lot of the art punk RPG releases that come out is that they're more focused on the art than on the game. And a lot of times the art punk isn't even a game. That is certainly not the case here. Pirate Borg is a fantastic old school styled role-playing game. Now, of course, it uses, for the most part, the mechanics from Mirkborg, but it is really its own thing. And if you follow the Gaming Gang, you know I've already pointed out previously, Pirate Borg is my favorite of the major Borg spin-offs that are out there. Now, I have not reviewed all of them. I've reviewed a few, and I've liked them, to be honest, but Pirate Borg is my absolute favorite. So as you can see here, we're going to be in the character creation portion of the player's guidebook. And I will point out that there are ways that you can create your character completely randomly. So if you want to just roll dice and have an absolutely random character, including randomly finding out what class they are, you certainly can. Now, I know there are people out there who are going to be wondering, well, now hold on, Jeff. I already have the Pirate Borg core book. Why would I pick up the starter set? Because I've got all the rules. I've got the introductory adventuring. It's all in the core book. Okay, first of all, the guidebook here, there are some tweaks, not major tweaks, but there are some, I guess I'll say, refinements with this. There are also some additional rules that have been introduced since that core book came out that are also included in this. Now, I'm not telling you, if you already have the core rule book, that you need to pick up the starter set. Absolutely not. But there are also some cool extras with this starter set, such as the dice and the padded character sheets, the different tokens, the maps, and so forth. But don't feel that you have to pick up the starter set. Something else that's important to keep in mind is the introductory adventure that's included in the starter set is completely different than the introductory adventuring that's in the core rulebook. Something else, in the core rulebook, you'll get more setting information than you're going to find in the guidebook. But this is not just simply some quick start booklet. You can just tell just from the page count how much is included in this. Like, what is our page count? Where do we end up? 80 pages? Yes. 80 pages. And then, of course, we have our essentially most important information right here. So we've got the worksheet. We've got, in essence, the Game Master screen for the most part. I also thought it's kind of funny. Box top and the box bottom also have more information. So you can use both the bottom and the top as kind of a mini Game Master screen too. I thought that was a nice little extra flourish to the starter set. So there is the player's guidebook. Then finally, we will have the adventure Trapped in the Tropics. Now let's take a quick break from the review so I can share how you can get into the running to win my extra copy of the Pirate Borg starter set, as well as the Down Among the Dead supplement, which I'll be sharing a first look at later on this week. To make things easy, I try to make the contest as easy as possible. First of all, you must be a subscriber to the channel. And then do me a favor, give the video a quick thumbs up. I know I can't tell if you do or not, but come on, you're entering the contest. Give the video a quick thumbs up. And then in the comments section, just let me know, what is your favorite pirate movie of all time and how maybe you would incorporate something from that movie into a Pirate Borg adventure. Now, I'm not asking you to write a novella. I'm just asking for, 2-3 sentences at most, really. And then I will reveal the winner on my live stream, the Gaming Gang Dispatch, for March 10th. That will give you plenty of time to get into the running for the contest. All right, very nice. So there you have it. Like I said, make it pretty easy. All right, so let's get back to the review. So this is the adventure book. This is Trapped in the Tropics, which will help introduce the mechanics of Pirate Borg to both game masters and players. And one of the nice things about the adventure is the fact this is not just some simple introductory adventure that's going to keep your players occupied for a session or two. I would say if your players are really heavy into role playing, you're probably going to get about 6 sessions out of this starting adventure. If they're more kind of to the point, maybe play at a faster pace, then you're still going to get 4 sessions or so out of this. This is also going to get into a bit of information about the concepts of Pirate Borg, some of the key tenets for game masters as well as players. And as I pointed out, this has a lot of the old school mentality. Want to make sure that people are aware that Pirate Borg is not going to be for everyone. As fantastic as Pirate Borg is, and as you can see, this starter set is just jam-packed with goodness. If you are a game master who requires your adventures to be laid out, linear, A leads to B, B leads to C, and so forth, Pirate Borg might not necessarily be a great role-playing game for you if you are not flexible in your approach, because you're going to get the most out of Pirate Borg as a game master and as players if you just go with the flow. Let the dice decide what's going on. There's a lot of just randomness, different random tables and so forth. If you embrace that, you and your players are going to just have an absolute blast. If you do need to have more of a linear approach to your role-playing game adventures, then you're probably not going to get what you should be getting out of Pirate Borg. Just want to let you know. But as you can see here, we've got an adventure. It starts off, the player characters are betrayed by the rest of their crew, and they're left on Eel Island, and they're searching for this lost ship. That's where they find half of that pirate map. Then they find out that the NPCs that have hired them are actually really searching for something else, that artifact that you saw the card for. So that draws the player characters in to looking to find that. There's a lot of cool stuff going on here. Also, keep in mind, because this has an old school mentality, player deaths can be frequent. So you want to make sure that your players are aware of that if they're not familiar with the old school style of play. But lots going on here, a lot of fun stuff, a lot of crazy stuff also. There are a lot of opportunities to make this adventure your own. So there are some various different options on how you approach different aspects of the adventure. I'll give you an example. One of them is this substance known as ash, because there are undead in the dark Caribbean. Ash can be made from dried parts of zombies, and it's a drug. It's a psychotropic drug that may not necessarily be up everyone's alley at your game table. So there are different options of, well, what is ash really and what is ash do? So if smoking ash at your game table would not be kosher, you have other options as well. But there's quite a bit of that throughout this adventure. But you are looking at 57 pages, 59 pages of adventuring here And there are some items in here that could be utilized in other adventures. And this also makes for a good jumping on point to maybe put together a Pirate Borg campaign. All right, so that is a peek at everything you're going to find inside the Pirate Borg starter set. Let's swing on over to the other camera so I can share some final thoughts as well as my review score. If you've been following the Gaming Gang for a while, you already know I am a huge fan of Pirate Borg. I say it all the time. Out of the variants of Borg that are out there that I've had an opportunity to review, Pirate Borg is my absolute favorite. And I can also tell you it's probably the best supported of all those third-party Borgs as well, with some fantastic content. As far as this starter set, it is absolutely packed with goodies. Those dice are fantastic. They are resin dice. You've got the 4 6-sided dice in the set. I know some folks out there are going to think I'm fixated on these dice, but if you have an opportunity to check these dice out yourself, you will be impressed too. There's lots of handouts. We've got battle maps. We've got the tokens. We've got the padded character sheets. We've got the reusable worksheets if you're using erasable markers. So all of that is excellent. And then we get into the booklets, which is really the meat and potatoes of this starter set. The player's guidebook is fantastic. It is going to easily onboard game masters and players not only into the mechanics of Pirate Borg, but the mentality of it. And it's going to inspire game masters and players out there to make Pirate Borg truly their own, because there are a lot of ways you can approach a spooky pirate game, and there are tons and tons of tropes you can utilize in your games of Pirate Borg. So no two tables are going to approach this role-playing game the same way, and I absolutely love that. The adventure Trapped in the Tropics, which is included, is really well done. There's loads of adventuring packed into that booklet. This is not some introductory adventure that's going to keep your players occupied for 2-3 hours, maybe take up a session, or if you're lucky, 2. No, there is a lot of play packed into that adventure, and it's a fun adventure as well, and really does a nice job of introducing the setting of the Dark Caribbean to game masters and players. So on a score of 0 to 10, I give the Pirate Borg starter set, get ready for it, hold on to your hats, a 10 out of 10. If you have any interest whatsoever in Pirate Borg, and I have pointed out, this is not necessarily a role-playing game for everyone, but if you think it's going to be up your alley, this starter set needs to be in your collection of role-playing games. It really, really does. All right, that's it for this time out. If you like the Gaming Gang and would like to support the outlet, you can do so in a few ways. First, by utilizing our affiliate links to the One Bookshelf sites, such as DriveThruRPG, and to do so, simply visit thegaminggang.com, click on one of our banner ads. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get 5% of that sale. And all those commissions really do add up and help keep the gaminggang.com website around. Also, a couple other ways you can support the outlet. You can make a one-time donation by way of PayPal or become a monthly member of our Patreon. You'll find links to all that down in the show notes. Also in the show notes, you're going to find an invite link to our Discord server. It's absolutely free to sign up, so be sure to hang with the gang over on Discord. Be sure to get into the running for the contest. Don't forget about that. Also, if you like the video, be sure to give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already, and if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell. And if you do ring the bell, be sure to select all notifications, because you'll not only be informed when I share videos such as this review, it'll also inform you when my live stream, the Gaming Gang Dispatch, airs Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. as I bring you the latest in tabletop role-playing game news and more. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you will never find here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Thank you very much for watching. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. And until I see you next time, I certainly hope all of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.